Every morning, Daisy starts her day by perfectly sweeping the front entrance, leaving no spot, and watering the lovely flower beds. This is the task given to her as a maid of the Weatherwoods family. Now, normally, watering the plants is a gardener's job. Still, in the Weatherwoods mansion, the 3 remaining servants have to do absolutely everything themselves because the master's wallet is seriously tight. While Daisy is minding her own business, Baron Feathergale arrives at the front gate with 2 bulky thugs in tow, Ludley complaining. But Daisy continues her job as though she doesn't know they are there until the head maid who wears glasses steps up to confront him. "Are you here again?" Baron Feathergale. The Baron, who was initially desperate to buy the manor, says, "Again? You make it sound so embarrassing for a listener," but the head maid firmly reminds him that, as she mentioned last time, the estate is not for sale. The Baron replies, "How insolent. I didn't come for that today. I must meet the new Viscount Weatherwoods today." The head maid informs him that the master is currently out pleading with him to go back. This completely sets the Baron off. He notes that this is the 3rd time he has heard such this month, and from previous observations, he says that only 3 servants ever come out of this manor. He rants about how the village calls this place the Ghost Manor, and complains that the former Viscount, his dear friend who died 4 years ago in the Magic War, would be heartbroken to see such a beautiful estate in such ruin. The head maid questions the meaning of his rude behavior, telling him to leave immediately. Losing his patience, the Baron points directly at Daisy and demands to know where the new Viscount is hiding, asking if the master has been gone for years or if he is just too sick to leave his room. Daisy shuts him down instantly with short, blunt answers, calmly stating that the master isn't away and is perfectly healthy. The Baron adds that the former Viscount asked him, his best friend, to look after the new Viscount Weatherwoods, so he only wants to fulfill his responsibility. He asks again if everything is truly all right with the Viscount, and Daisy gives another blunt answer, saying that everything is fine. Insulted by her pure lack of respect, the Baron begins screaming at her for not knowing her place as a mere maid. He was about to slap her, but before he can even finish his sentence, Daisy smacks him so hard, sending him flying. He suddenly passes out and his men rush to his aid. With the Baron gone, the 2 aggressive thugs step forward to handle the situation themselves. The head maid tells Daisy to stay patient and promises to handle these sickly raccoons without her lifting a finger, but the thugs take offense to the insult and rush forward to attack. Unfortunately for them, things just got a whole lot worse. Before the first thug can even finish saying his line, Daisy unleashes an incredibly fast, brutal punch straight to his face, followed by another devastating strike that sends the second thug flying to the floor. Standing over the defeated men, Daisy casually claims that she is being patient and that her right hand is just going through a rebellious phase. She said she would scold it later. The head maid does not believe her words. Later that day, Daisy stands outside with a shovel. She sweetly asks the head maid if she should bury them nearby or cut off their heads to display as a warning, forcing the terrified head maid to scream at her just to sit them down normally. Daisy follows her superior's orders and dumps the unconscious men outside, fully believing everything will turn out completely fine since it was self-defense. Sadly, our poor girl couldn't be more wrong, because she got hit with a massive lawsuit from the Baron for assault and intimidation. A few days earlier, at a busy job agency, the interviewer calls out for applicant number 38 to come in. As our girl walks into the room, the interviewer is instantly stunned by how incredibly beautiful she is. After a polite greeting, the interviewer checks her profile and asks for her name. She introduces herself as Daisy Fager. Hearing this, the interviewer freezes. Fager, as in Andert Fager, the famous hero of the Magic War? Our girl calmly plays it down, claiming it is just a very common name which the interviewer accepts. Looking over the paperwork, the interviewer notes Daisy has 1 younger brother and stands at 170 centimeters tall. That is quite tall for a woman, which will be a massive advantage for the job she applied for. But then comes the big question. Why does she want to become a maid? Daisy gives the most honest answer ever. Money. Fair enough. Finally, the interviewer asks what kind of employer she is looking for, and Daisy goes completely extreme. She wants a mansion so harsh and dreadful that 2 people could work there and not even notice if one of them died, under a vicious employer who squeezes their servants completely dry. Talk about a bizarre request. But inside her head, Daisy knows this nightmare scenario is just perfect for her ultimate goal. To her surprise, the interviewer gets super excited and tells her she is incredibly lucky because it is rare to find a job this quickly. She tells Daisy she is heading to a mansion located right in the bustling district belonging to one of the most prestigious families in the entire empire, calling it an absolute honor to work there. Passing over the address, the interviewer leaves her with just one expectation. Please last at least a week before quitting so she can secure her sweet referral fee. Fast forward to the next day, and Daisy arrives at the massive estate, but things already feel incredibly strange. The front bell seems completely broken, and she honestly thinks the place looks like a house where terrifying demons might jump out at any second. After waiting outside for a whole hour, wondering if anyone would ever show up, the head maid finally arrives and apologizes for being late. She confirms Daisy's identity and introduces herself as the head maid of the Weatherwoods estate. Before they even step inside, she drops a shocking rule. Normally, maids are strictly forbidden from using the front gate or the main entrance, but here, Daisy is told just to use them. Oh, and she adds a quick scolding, telling Daisy not to shake the gate like that because it totally startled her. When asked if she brought any luggage, Daisy casually replies with a simple, "Yeah," but the head maid immediately corrects her, telling her to say no, she doesn't. Talk about strict. The head maid then explains the setup. The master of the estate is Viscount Weatherwoods, and he lives completely alone. As for the staff, it is literally just the two of them, plus a cook gardener who will not arrive for another 4 days. She lays down the business details next. The salary is paid on the 1st of every month, and the grueling work starts at 6 a.m. sharp and ends at 7 p.m. Leading Daisy to her quarters, the head maid mentions this is probably the only maid's room this large in existence. She tells Daisy to rest for a bit, change into her uniform, and meet her in the first floor entrance hall. But before she leaves, she delivers one final, absolute rule: never, ever enter the main bedroom, and if anyone asks where he is, always say he is out. Daisy just nods in response, but the head maid snaps that she needs a verbal answer, not just a nod. Daisy quickly falls into line with a proper yes, and the door slams shut. Left alone, Daisy looks around and decides the place is livable enough. She reminds herself of her true mission. She must work here without drawing any attention and find those items within the next 3 years. Otherwise, believe it or not, she is going to die. Yeah, she is really going to die. Suddenly, the peaceful life she wanted turns into an absolute nightmare of endless chores. It is non-stop wiping, polishing, scraping, and more wiping until Daisy realizes this is a totally crazy house. Thankfully, her hard work pays off because the head maid praises her, saying things go way faster with 2 people, and that Daisy has incredible stamina and quick thinking. The head maid even happily mutters that it was well worth spending a total fortune to bring her here. Hearing this, our girl finally realizes why the interviewer back at the agency looked at her like she was a literal golden pig. When evening rolls around, the head maid notices the time and decides to call it a day so they can grab some dinner. But things get pretty awkward at the dinner table. Daisy is so completely starving that she has already cleared 2 entire bowls of food, causing the head maid to stare at her blankly. Even though Daisy said the food is bad, she had already cleared 2 plates and is on the 3rd. Out loud, the head maid tells Daisy to keep those greedy thoughts to herself, awkwardly reminding her that she is not actually the cook. Still, she admits that out of the countless maids she has seen pass through the Weatherwoods family, a unique maid like Daisy is an absolute first. She asks Daisy how she even ended up becoming a maid in the first place. Daisy pauses, wondering the same thing. Seeing her hesitate, the kind head maid tells her she does not have to answer if it is too difficult, comforting her by saying everyone has their own secret story and carries at least one deep sorrow in their heart. Daisy just blinks in silence, internally sweating because she was literally about to tell her it is just because she has no home and absolutely zero money. She realizes that if she reveals she is completely broke, they might treat her even more like a helpless slave. As if things weren't already bad enough, the grueling routine repeats day after day. The next morning brings even more insane labor. Her schedule is packed with tasks like, today, dust the 2nd floor ceiling, then also sweep the ground and so on. It was a long list of chores for each day. After dinner, she barely closes her eyes for what feels like a split second. And boom, it is already the next day. The day after that is just as brutal, filled with cleaning out the dusty fireplace, wiping down the endless hallways, and organizing heavy items. At this point, Daisy literally visualizes herself as a miserable farm cow dragging a massive pile of rocks, genuinely convinced she has transformed into livestock. But on the 3rd night of these exhausting, backbreaking days, the story takes a terrifying turn. While our girl is fast asleep in her bed, completely dead to the world, a mysterious figure wrapped in a dark cloak silently slips into her room. Before anyone can react, he steps right up to her bedside and pulls out a dangerously sharp, gleaming dagger. He showed up. The blade flashes menacingly in the dark. The tension shatters instantly as the mysterious intruder plunges his sharp blade down, only to find himself completely overpowered. Before anyone can react, Daisy grabs him tightly, causing him to choke and gasp for air as she aggressively subdues him. Our girl is definitely not someone to be messed with. While he struggles and panics under her firm grip, she casually rummages through his belongings. As she thought, she quickly pulled out a small object. It is a suicide pill, a favorite tool used by the notorious Assassination Information Guild. The stunned intruder, coughing wildly, can barely process what just happened. He realizes with absolute terror that she is not an ordinary maid and desperately demands to know her true identity. Daisy, completely calm and unfazed, ignores his question and starts interrogating him instead. Cornered and defeated, the assassin breathes heavily and confesses that he merely took on a request that came directly to his guild. When she asks why he needed to monitor Viscount Weathers, he honestly shakes his head, admitting he has no idea. He does not even know the identity of the client. Curious about the estate's suspiciously high turnover rate, Daisy asks how many spies have been sent before him. He reveals that, from what he has heard, he is at least the 3rd one. Hearing this, Daisy finally connects the dots. She always found it strange that the previous maids ran away one after another, because while the workload is undeniably tough, it isn't unbearable enough to make everyone flee. When she pushes for details about what happened to those previous maids, the assassin explains that his role was strictly to extract an oath of obedience from them. He claims he was never involved in anything beyond that task. Daisy internally processes this dark revelation. He was using a magical tool to force an oath out of the unsuspecting staff. An oath is a forbidden magic that uses a person's very soul as collateral, meaning anyone who breaks it has their soul destroyed, leading to instant death. Suddenly, the horrific truth becomes clear. Those maids didn't run away at all. They died. Daisy wonders what on earth could be so important about the Viscount that someone would go to such extreme, lethal lengths just to dig up information. Terrified for his life after failing his mission and his own suicide attempt, the assassin begs for mercy. He promises that if she lets him go, he will become a fugitive for life, never appear before her again, and swear never to utter a single word about her. Daisy briefly debates whether she should just kill him, but when he desperately offers to take an oath of obedience to her, she coldly rejects the idea and decides to hit him, making him pass out for a while, knowing he is no longer a threat. The next morning, beautiful birds chirp outside the window as a bright new day begins. The head maid looks out at the noisy streets and comments that someone is already moving into the neighborhood. She notes that it hasn't even been long since the Esla family moved out, yet a new family is already setting up right across the street. Daisy, sipping her drink, looks confused and asks if that place wasn't an empty house. When the head maid asks where she is going, Daisy bluntly answers that she needs to use the restroom, using a rather unrefined expression. The head maid instantly chimes in, telling her to please use more elegant language for things like that, prompting a quiet apology from Daisy. Peeking outside towards the neighboring estate, Daisy's attention is drawn to a young man standing among the moving carriages. To her absolute shock, the man suddenly stops and glares directly up at her window, as if he can feel her watching him from afar. Daisy quickly pulls back, sweating nervously. She realizes he isn't an ordinary guy at all. Could he really have sensed her gaze from that distance? Between the deadly assassin from last night and this creepy new neighbor, Daisy decides she has no choice but to completely forget about yesterday's crazy incident and focus on keeping a low profile. Just then, a voice snaps her back to reality. A handsome young man with striking blue hair stands in the courtyard, politely introducing himself as the new gardener and cook starting today. Daisy stares at him, completely captivated, marking her very first meeting with the mysterious Lou. Our girl Daisy has just been introduced to the blindingly handsome new cook and gardener, Lou, and she wastes absolutely no time trying to handle the situation her way. Marching right up to the head maid while holding a duster, she confidently demands that he be fired. The head maid is completely taken aback, wondering who on earth she is talking about and asking if she means herself. Daisy quickly clarifies that no, she is talking about that highly suspicious person, Lou. She insists that he is definitely not ordinary in many ways, making him incredibly dangerous, so he needs to be fired immediately. But the head maid just chuckles warmly, noting that it isn't good to judge people so hastily when it hasn't even been a single day since he was hired. In fact, she points out that Daisy is just as unique as Lou is. Daisy flinches, trying to defend herself by saying she shouldn't be compared to someone at that level. She desperately tries to get her point across, pointing out how extremely suspicious he looks. I mean, how can a regular person be that beautiful? Even his strange blue hair looks completely glamorous because of his perfectly harmonious features, those glowing golden eyes that look like the sea glistening in the sun, and his languid, sunken gaze. His appearance is so shockingly striking that just looking at him causes actual mental shock. And don't even get her started on his personality. Flashback to just a bit earlier, when Lou introduces himself and asks how he should address the head maid. When she introduces herself, he smoothly confirms that he is indeed the cook and gardener. As the head maid starts repeating herself out of pure awe, he confidently cuts in, saying he completely understands. He says it must be incredibly hard to believe that someone as blindingly beautiful as him would be working as a cook for such a dying mansion or managing a garden that looks like a complete dump. Still, they just have to accept it because it's the absolute truth. Daisy can only stare in disbelief that he literally called the estate a dying mansion and a dump. Lou then turns his attention to Daisy, asking what her deal is, and the head maid simply introduces her as the Maid. Lou condescendingly smirks, remarking how incredibly original it is to have the name Maid, before saying he looks forward to working with her as Miss Maid. Back in the present, the head maid completely dismisses Daisy's warnings, casually suggesting they just keep an eye on him for a while since the only truly suspicious thing about him is his incredibly handsome face. Daisy realizes the head maid is being way too naive. What she doesn't know is that the deadly assassin Daisy caught at dawn was already by Lou's side, and to make things worse, he lives right across from the Weatherwoods mansion. This means he is almost certainly a spy sent to monitor Viscount Weatherwoods. But instead of listening, the head maid just nods and hands Daisy another chore, telling her to go clean the handprints off the window. As if things weren't already bad enough, Daisy realizes she can't even tell the head maid the truth, because she would just ask how Daisy knows about the assassin and suspect her too, which would get her kicked out of this strange house. Plus, the head maid is a true slave to capital. She completely fell for Lou because he agreed to work for half wages and even offered to renovate the garden using his own money. Money is truly a dangerous thing, completely preventing the head maid from seeing a literal spy threatening their master's life. Frustrated, Daisy decides that it is time for a physical conversation to make this guy spill his guts, confrontingly walking right out to the garden to face him. Lou notices her approach and smugly asks if she has something to say, calling her Miss Maid the Maid. Standing her ground, Daisy demands to know who he really is. Lou laughs it off, saying he already told her his name is Lou, but she snaps back that she isn't asking for his name. She wants to know who he really is and why he came here. Lou steps closer with a playful smirk, teasingly asking if this means she wants to get to know him more deeply, adding that he doesn't think they are quite at that stage yet. Daisy shivers in frustration, telling him to stop acting like a slippery snake and answer her. Lou suddenly leans in and whispers right into her ear, telling her it's because he is her fan. Before she can even process that, he drops an absolute bombshell, whispering that she caught a pervert last night and tied him up in his house, and that seeing her boldly lock up a total stranger was quite impressive. Daisy freezes, sweating profusely as pure panic sets in. Is that really why he came here? But before she can say anything, Lou suddenly yells out to the head maid in a dramatic, petty voice, shouting that Miss Maid the maid is slacking off and hitting on him, asking if this is even allowed. Daisy is completely blown away by how mean and petty he is. Naturally, the head maid chimes in from afar, heavily hinting that only those who work hard get to enjoy a delicious dinner. Daisy has no choice but to grind her teeth and work herself to the bone after that, though she notes that dinner that night still tasted completely tasteless out of pure annoyance. Fast forward past the flashback, and we cut to Lou and Daisy walking together outside. Daisy brings up another serious matter, asking what happened to the lawsuit. To start with the conclusion, Lou smoothly reveals that the Baron completely dropped the charges. He mentions that the investigation into Daisy Fager's identity is entirely separate from the case, but tells her it's fine because it is completely out of their hands now. Daisy stares at his back, deeply unsettled. There are more than one or two things about this guy that bother her, but the biggest problem is how he handled it. With an incredibly blunt and serious face, she straight up asks him if he killed the Baron or if he buried him. Lou instantly stops and turns around, telling her she shouldn't say terrifying things like that anywhere because it is way too easy to be misunderstood. He explains that usually, at times like this, when someone helps you, you are supposed to say you will carve the deed into your bones and never forget it until you die. He even dramatically demonstrates, saying that as a token of gratitude, you should offer to become their slave and ask to lick the top of their foot. He proudly tells her that is how you properly say it, mockingly asking her if they should try it out right now. Daisy just stands there, realizing with a sigh that yes, this crazy guy already completely settled the entire situation on his own, leaving her with more questions than answers. Following the tense aftermath of an investigation, two investigators watch from behind as Daisy and Lou walk away down a grand hallway. One investigator, highly frustrated, asks if they are really just going to let them leave like that. The older, bearded investigator crosses his arms calmly and counters with a question of his own. What choice do they have? He reveals that the Baron unexpectedly withdrew all the charges, meaning they cannot legally investigate any further, even if they wanted to. It is incredibly strange, especially after the massive scene the Baron made earlier. There must be something deeper going on. The younger investigator then drops a massive hint about a larger conspiracy, mentioning they received strict orders from the top brass to thoroughly investigate Daisy's past regardless of the Baron's case. He looks deeply unsettled, recalling a shocking rumor that the Quiet Maid is actually one of the few remaining survivors of Queen Island. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Lou and Daisy sitting closely together. Lou looks sideways at Daisy with a knowing, heavy gaze. He casually breaks the silence, telling Miss Daisy that he does not believe he has received a proper thank you from her yet. He follows it up with a sharp, mocking sting, adding that even a dog knows how to repay a kindness, so surely she isn't the type of person to be worse than a dog. Daisy's face turns sour with absolute annoyance. She flinches away from his intense gaze, her mouth twitching in frustration. Grinding her teeth, she forces out a strained, reluctant, "Thank you, sir." But Lou doesn't make it easy on our girl. He immediately questions her gratitude, smoothly stating that if she is truly thankful, she should find a way to pay him back. Daisy bluntly shoots him down, stating she does not have any money. Lou quickly clarifies that it is not about money at all. His tone shifts into a deeply serious warning, telling her that from now on, she must not do such reckless things anymore, and should always use her head before her body. Then, he drops a completely chilling line, telling her that if she ever finds herself in a situation where she has to dispose of a body again, she needs to tell him first. He smiles playfully and asks if that sounds easy enough. Daisy stares at him in complete disbelief, demanding to know why on earth she should ever do that. Before the tension can boil over, the head maid suddenly bursts into the room, gasping for breath while holding up her heavy apron. She frantically calls out to Miss Daisy and Lou, checking to see if they are both all right. She confesses she had absolutely no idea the Baron would press charges so incredibly quickly. Lou immediately puts on his perfect charming gentleman act, gently reassuring her that, as she can see, they are both perfectly fine. The head maid sighs with immense relief, explaining that she fully intended to settle the entire matter within the family, but the authorities were just so relentless. Lou smoothly plays along, saying that if the head maid is the one asking, then of course he considers it self-defense. Looking at the clock, the head maid realizes how late it has gotten. She turns to Lou, apologizing for the trouble but asking if he could please help with preparation for dinner. Lou flashes a brilliant, dazzling smile that radiates pure charm, confidently declaring that he will show off a bit of his cooking skills just for her. Daisy watches this display with absolute disgust, mentally screaming that he is a total sly fox of a man. The head maid is completely delighted, eagerly wondering what kind of amazing dishes Lu can make. Daisy clenches her fist tightly, reminding herself that at this rate, the head maid is going to completely fall for his fake act all over again, meaning she has to keep her wits about her at all costs. Later that evening, Lu presents a beautifully steaming golden bowl of potato stew, warmly telling them to please eat well. The head maid takes a single sip and is instantly blown away, Ludley praising it as easily the best meal she has had in years. She states it is so incredibly delicious that it almost makes her feel guilty for hiring him at half pay. Lu, however, cannot resist throwing some petty shade at Daisy. He dramatically sighs, remarking that if only someone hadn't peeled the potatoes as slowly as a tortoise, taking an absolute eternity, he would have been able to serve the delicious food much sooner. He calls it a terrible shame. Daisy sits across from him, chewing her food with an angry, veins-popping pout. She is completely annoyed, but she can't even argue because, unfortunately, he is entirely right. She bitterly wonders why on earth she was unable to peel those potatoes any faster. The head maid, noticing Daisy's intense eating, gently tells her to eat slowly because no one is going to take the food away from her. Daisy slams her spoon down with a sharp clack. She looks straight at Lu, completely focused on the mystery surrounding him. She acknowledges the flavor is incredible, but changes the subject entirely. She demands to know the truth, asking if he grilled the Baron or roasted him to get him to drop the charges so suddenly. She straight up asks if he is perhaps a noble of a much higher rank than the Baron. Lu looks back at her with a highly self-aware, smug expression, noting he is curious as to why she would assume such a thing. He then hilariously lists his own traits, confidently stating that he is elegant, dignified, wealthy, considerate, handsome, fit, kind, and intellectual. However, he admits he might have a slightly high sense of self-worth. Daisy cuts him off, telling him not to speak like a simpleton. Lu just chuckles, noting that it is nice to see she actually knows how to speak in full sentences, telling her to keep chattering away like that in the future. Daisy seethes with rage, realizing he treats her like a simpleton. She looks down at her bowl, deeply loathing the fact that he is the sole reason she is talking so much. Lu notices her glaring and playfully asks if that mean look means she wants his portion of the stew too, casually sliding his bowl over. Daisy quickly takes it, thinking that while he is infuriating, the stew itself is completely innocent. After dinner, the head maid and Daisy stand side by side at the sink, washing and drying the dishes. Lu speaks up from the doorway, stating that since he has lost his stew to Miss Daisy, he should probably head out for the evening. He adds with a smirk that he will bill them for his overtime later. The head maid bids him a warm goodnight, saying she will see him tomorrow. As the door clicks shut, the atmosphere turns incredibly serious. Daisy dries a plate, her mind racing with dark thoughts. The delicious food cannot distract her from the massive danger standing right in front of them. Working with a guy this deeply suspicious simply does not sit well with her at all. As she stands in the quiet kitchen, Daisy forms two dangerous hypotheses regarding Lu's true identity. Hypothesis number 1. Just like the deadly assassin she caught, he snuck into the estate under a false cover to monitor Viscount Weatherwoods. Hypothesis number 2. Just like the investigators mentioned regarding the high-ups being deeply interested in her identity, he already knows everything about her dark past and deliberately chased her down to this very mansion. Daisy stares out into the dark, her eyes narrowing as she grimly wonders just how high the likelihood of that terrifying second option truly is. Daisy is having a nightmare. It is a memory of a battlefield, a memory of a time filled with chaos, screaming voices, and heavy choices. A voice echoes out, calling frantically for Andert! A commanding officer screams to stop right now, emphasizing that it is an order from the commander-in-chief. But the legendary warrior stands firm, stating that no permission is needed because this is an independent decision. With a calm but final goodbye to Yahello, Andert leaves the past behind amidst a massive boom. Meanwhile, our girl Daisy wakes up from this intense nightmare in a cold sweat. She sighs heavily, staring at the ceiling, wondering if Rue already knows her secret. You see, 14 years ago, when the great magician Mephisto waged war to gain immortal power, the one who protected the fate of humanity, the Emperor's sword, Andert Fager, was actually her. Daisy Fager is Andert Fager. You might be wondering why the genders are different. Well, it's a good question. After her younger brother tragically died in battle defending their hometown of Queen Island, Daisy used ancient magic to transform her body into a man's own, living under his name for years. After successfully killing Mephisto, she honestly thought she had met her end, but believe it or not, she came back to life in her original body. Out of all times, she returned 4 years later, leaving her with only 3 years left to live. Realizing this mystery is messily disrupting her rest, she decides it is her loss if she gets fired for oversleeping. She resolves that she has no choice but to ask Rue directly. Daisy sneaks through the dark, wondering if she should knock or just smash the door down. Scaling the wall wasn't an issue at all, but before she can even make a move, a familiar figure steps out into the dim light with a quiet step. It's the captured assassin, looking remarkably clean and sharp. He clears his throat with an ahem, casually asking if he startled her. He reveals that the master explicitly said she would be coming around this exact time, so he was waiting for her. Daisy is completely taken aback, wondering if this guy has actually become Rue's butler or something. The man explains that the master told him to pass on a specific message to her. When Daisy asks what it is, he delivers Rue's words smoothly. If Miss Daisy comes, tell her. Why don't you practice peeling potatoes instead of wasting your time coming here? Daisy's temper instantly flares up, and before anyone can react, she violently grabs him by the collar, shaking him back and forth. The poor guy panics, desperately yelling that he didn't say it and that it was purely the master's message, not his. He clutches his neck in pain as Daisy fiercely demands to know if the two of them are in this together. He quickly objects, asking if she already forgot that she is the one who locked him up here in the first place. He mumbles that, just like the master said, she must have amnesia or something, prompting a sharp, terrifying glare from Daisy that forces him to shut his mouth immediately. He nervously explains that he stayed there of his own free will, though Daisy counters that she can't really trust him when he's dressed so formally. He admits that while that is fair, he simply submitted to Rue. After all, it is only natural for the weak to submit willingly to the strong. He shivers, whispering that she wouldn't know, but the master is a very incredible and terrifying man. He adds that this estate also has high-level magic cast over it that prevents anyone from looking inside. Since he can be totally free from his guild's surveillance here, he figured he would just lay low and figure out a way to survive for the time being. Daisy listens in quiet shock, processing the fact that there is such high-level magic surrounding the estate. Not only is it a powerful magic that she couldn't even detect, but Rue is also skilled enough to instill absolute fear into a seasoned assassin. Her intuition back then was entirely right. She hasn't picked up a sword since returning to her original female body, so it would have been incredibly dangerous if she had fought Rue right away. She looks at the assassin and asks what the chances are that his master is actually the client who ordered the hit. The man considers it, noting it is hard to say, but Rue doesn't seem like the type of person to hire an assassination guild. However, one thing is absolutely for sure: the master is highly interested in the Weatherwoods family, which is obvious given how he knew Daisy was coming in advance. He looks at her knowingly, stating she should honestly know this better than he does. Daisy realizes it doesn't seem like he's lying. Since survival is his top priority, there's no reason for him to deceive her now. In that case, she proposes a deal. They will share whatever information they dig up, meeting once a week, at this exact time, in this exact place. The assassin hesitates, wondering why he should agree, but ultimately concedes, acknowledging that they are helping each other out. But just as the secret alliance is formed, the man's expression shifts into complete sincerity. He mentions there is one crucial thing he would like to ask her, and to Daisy's absolute confusion, he deadpans. Do you have any tips for washing blankets? Leaving our girl standing there in utter, speechless disbelief. As our girl Daisy is hanging the white material outside, she decides it is finally time to confront Lou directly, after setting up surveillance the previous day and finding nothing special. Walking up to him, she presents him with a formal written note. He surprisingly receives it, detailing exactly why his identity is highly suspicious. He started working at the estate at the same time as her. He is clearly rich, yet chose to work as a gardener and cook for half the standard salary, and he moved into the house across the street immediately after being hired. She tells him that if he was assigned to monitor her or investigate the Weatherwoods family, he should just be honest so they can cooperate. Lou looks at the letter and remarks that her self-consciousness is quite remarkable, jokingly asking if she lost sleep writing it. He misinterprets it entirely as a love confession, stating that even though he doesn't believe in destined love with a woman he just met, he will read it since she went through the trouble. He smoothly adds that he has received more than enough confessions already and must refuse, completely twisting Daisy's perspective into absolute frustration. Before she can even call him out for his arrogance, Lou drops a pot with a seed into her hands and challenges her to make any kind of flower bloom from it without transplanting. When a baffled Daisy demands to know why she should bother, Lou reveals that his identity is an extremely dizzying secret, meaning he can't just share it for free. He playfully smirks, suggesting that if she doesn't want to grow the flower, she can just pay him 500 gold instead, an impossible amount that would take 100 years of a maid's salary to save. Trapped, Daisy angrily agrees to his deal. Suddenly, the head maid clears her throat behind them, strictly warning them that dating coworkers is strictly forbidden. Lou plays along seamlessly, stroking Daisy's head and saying he looks forward to seeing what kind of flower she grows, which earns him a death glare from Daisy as she mutters a threat to break his hand. The head maid cuts the tension, warning Daisy to be careful because if she gets caught again, her pay will be docked, before sending her out to buy cooking ingredients. Walking out to the market, a sweating Daisy decides to halt her investigation into Lou for now to protect her paycheck, noting that his suspiciousness is still just a hunch. She stops by a small street stall run by a poor, fragile old lady selling potatoes. Daisy counts out 7 potatoes, and the grateful grandmother smiles warmly, thanking her for being a customer. As Daisy walks away, she notices an extra potato in her basket and turns back to return it, only to witness things getting much worse. A group of aggressive thugs from a local merchant union has surrounded the old lady, aggressively demanding a union fee. When the crying grandmother insists she is just running a tiny business and never agreed to join, a thug violently knocks over her stall, screaming at her to close up shop or get out of their territory. Before anyone can react, Daisy steps right into the middle of the conflict, demanding the thugs stop unless they all want to end up in the trash. The thugs mock her for being a mere maid, with one threatening to hurt her so badly she won't even be able to walk down the street. The terrified grandmother begs Daisy to run, but in a flash, our girl completely terrifies the thugs, leaving one trembling and crying in absolute shock as she casually takes care of business. The old lady bows repeatedly, thanking her savior. When a calm Daisy asks who those men were, the grandmother explains that they started as a vigilante group during the Magic War. However, after the war ended, they turned into a corrupt group demanding protection fees under the pretext of maintaining market security, making life miserable for anyone who doesn't pay. Staring at the mess, Daisy is left deep in thought as she processes this new threat to the peace of the local streets. Our girl, Daisy, is trying to make sense of the local marketplace thugs. After gathering some rumors from the neighboring vendors, she learns that these guys are seriously vicious, merciless bastards. Apparently, they have about 6 big bosses running the show, with 20 underlings going around ruthlessly collecting protection money. To make matters worse, the area is completely in their palm, and reporting them to the authorities is totally useless because they might even be colluding with the police. It honestly makes Daisy feel a little strange. The pubs and gathering places she remembers from the past were meant for real people, warm sanctuaries where everyone could comfort each other and freely exchange information amidst the repeated wars with Mephisto. But now, under the fake guise of a merchant union, these lowlifes are acting like total thugs. However, a brilliant idea strikes her. The timing is absolutely perfect. Daisy desperately needs information about a certain artifact, and she realizes she can use these exact guys to get it. Later that evening, Daisy prepares for a secret midnight escape. Naturally, sneaking out in the middle of the night is one of the behaviors a professional maid should definitely avoid. Still, she knows it is far better than getting caught and scolded later. She makes her way down into the dark, eerie streets, stepping up to a sketchy building while wondering if it is just her imagination or if the air suddenly got cold. Walking through the door, the bell chimes loudly as she boldly announces that she would like to order. A rough man turns around, aggressively snapping at her that they aren't open for business. But before anyone can react, another thug recognizes her, telling his buddy to hold on because this looks like a customer he knows. He steps forward with a smug grin, asking if they have met somewhere before, while his companion murmurs that she does look familiar. When Daisy stands there in total silence, the thug's temper flares, demanding to know why she isn't answering. Suddenly, it clicks for him. He points a finger right at her, realizing she is the exact crazy maid who brutally smashed his brother's face. Hearing this, the other thugs in the room realize she is the woman they've been looking for. One of them comments that she is actually pretty decent looking, calling it a total shame. In an attempt to intimidate her, a thug pulls out a gun and points it directly at her head, threatening that if she doesn't want a hole in her brain, she needs to stay quiet. But instead of panicking, Daisy steps right into his space, casually grabbing the metal barrel of the gun with her bare hands. With absolute ease, she bends the solid iron barrel completely backward like it's nothing but a piece of plastic. The completely stunned thug stares at his ruined weapon in absolute shock, wondering how on earth it just bent like that. Furious and completely humiliated, the leader screams, "How dare this bitch!" He lunges at her, but before he can even land a punch, Daisy unleashes her hidden strength. With a series of lightning-fast blows, she violently beats the living daylights out of the entire room, leaving them groaning and crying on the floor in a matter of seconds. Standing over the defeated, sobbing thugs, Daisy calmly asks who is next, completely breaking their spirits. The trembling leader clutches his face, weeping as he desperately asks who on earth she actually is. Daisy simply stares down at him, proudly stating that she is someone who worked her absolute ass off trying to save the world in the past. She aggressively points a finger at them, demanding to know how they think she feels seeing complete scum like them running wild after she finally saved it. Besides, she explains that she has a crucial goal, something highly important she needs to find within the next 3 years, and to achieve that goal, she must stay healthy first. To stay healthy, she needs to eat well. But if these trash bags keep collecting protection money and driving the local merchants into a corner, the ingredients won't sell well, and their freshness will drop drastically. If she eats bad food, she will get sick, or if she's unlucky, she will straight up die. In short, she glares with a terrifying dark aura. If they collect protection money, she dies. So, she raises her fists, asking, "Who wants to go first?" The petrified thugs raise their hands in total surrender, screaming for her to wait. They desperately reveal that they belong to an organization called the Buried Rat, warning her that if she kills them, she will become a permanent enemy of the entire guild and will never survive. Daisy stops, blinking in confusion, admitting she has never once heard of them. Meanwhile, the captured assassin from before, who is secretly watching from the shadows, recognizes the name. He knows the Buried Rat is a massive information guild that grew at a rapid pace right after the Magic War, secretly operating all over the 13 countries of the former Magic Alliance, including the powerful Penrota Empire. They are notoriously ruthless bastards who will use any twisted means necessary to complete a mission or secure information, and they are so incredibly secretive that even their guildmaster's identity is completely shrouded in mystery. He highly doubts a high-level guild like that would ever join hands with such crude, low-class thugs, but the thug leader quickly objects, pulling out a special token and shouting that their union is absolutely under the protection of the Buried Rat, offering the official guild coin as undeniable proof. He warns her that she is making a massive mistake right now. Daisy inspects the coin, realizing the man isn't lying. The assassin secretly notes that an information guild relies heavily on trust and money to expand its scale, meaning even a shabby place like this is technically an official branch that is better left untouched. However, a dark smirk spreads across Daisy's face. She figures that this makes things even better, because someone's pawn is significantly more useful than a common local thug. She turns to the assassin, proposing a plan to use these guys to take over the village, avoid any outside pursuit, and effortlessly gather the exact information she wants, killing two birds with one stone. The assassin hesitates, worrying that it's far too dangerous if these men secretly betray and report them, but Daisy completely dismisses the worry. But she tells him to forget about that, asking what he is planning to use the information for. A light bulb immediately goes on in his head, and Daisy then turns back to the terrified, trembling thugs on the floor, asking if he knows exactly what to do now, and the assassin replies that of course he is certain, submissively calling her Maid. He casually mentions that he didn't know she could talk this much. And Daisy simply looks at him, bluntly stating she just didn't see the need to before. Daisy gathers the thugs together and says, "All right, guys, to commemorate the establishment of our brand new merchant coalition, let's proceed with our first official mission." The local thug leader snaps to attention, ready to follow his new maid overlord. The assassin watching from the side asks if she is referring to the specific item she was hunting for earlier, and yeah, that's exactly right. Our girl is after a legendary relic known as the Eye of Anicaps. The assassin ponders the name, recognizing it as a relic of a great healer that is said to be capable of bringing the dead back to life. Rumor has it that this powerful artifact is hidden somewhere right here in Midwintry, but when Daisy asks if he knows anything else about it, he admits he doesn't. However, he notes that as far as coincidences go, this one is certainly interesting. Believe it or not, just a few days ago, his own master also asked about that same item. Daisy's mind instantly goes to Ludeed. Why on earth would he be looking for the relic? According to the assassin, they found a midwintry travel guide sitting right in Lou's bedroom, and there was a bookmark placed on the exact page mentioning the Eye of Anicaps. The book detailed the Circle del Sol, a relic excavated during the founding of Midwintry that holds immense historical value, which the ancients believed possessed legendary healing properties. If that's true, it leads to one clear assumption. This is the real reason why a guy who is so obviously wealthy would go completely out of his way to work here as a lowly cook and gardener at the Weatherwoods estate. There might be crucial information regarding the Eye of Anicaps hidden right under their noses. The next day, back at the estate, Daisy finds herself completely zoning out, glaring holes into the back of Lou's head as he casually chats with the headmaid. Sensing the heavy gaze, Lou smoothly turns around with a playful smirk. He asks her if she's going to stare at a man's face for that long. Shouldn't she at least leave a review? Our girl realizes he's way too sharp. Hoping to deflect, Daisy points down at the pot and reminds him that she already planted the seeds he gave her. Lou just tilts his head, calling her out on such an incredibly natural and shameless deflection. He goes right back to reading his book, which Daisy notices is titled The 7 Great Mysteries of the Continent for Children, Treasure Edition. She wonders if that childish book could actually contain a real clue about the eye. Before she can investigate further, the headmaid steps in, smoking her pipe and asking Lou if he did something to upset Miss Daisy. Lou jokingly sighs, suggesting his only crime might be being a little too handsome. That joke earns him a swift, brutal stomp directly onto his foot from Daisy. Lou yelps in pain, and the headmaid immediately turns her strict gaze onto Daisy. She mentions that she understands the urge to stare at Lou's face constantly, but then lists off a mountain of chores. Has Daisy finished cleaning the entrance, washing the laundry, checking the pantry, sweeping the hallways, wiping the windows, and replacing the light bulbs? Daisy breaks into a cold sweat, realizing she hasn't done a single one. The headmaid warns her to hurry along and get to work, otherwise she won't be getting any meals today. As Daisy trudges away, Lou watches her go, thinking that, as expected, she's the most cold-hearted woman in Midwintry. Later on, Lou catches up with her and asks if she has finally decided on a name for the flowers yet. Daisy looks at him like he's crazy, asking why on earth she would even do that. When Lou asks if she even knows what kind of seeds she planted, she bluntly replies, "Does it matter?" Lou lets out a heavy, dramatic sigh. He tells her that at this rate, there's no way it will ever bloom, and it's going to die before it even sprouts. He warns her that plants thrive on genuine affection, so she absolutely needs to give it a name. He walks away, leaving her with a smirk and a parting thought. Well, if she doesn't care to find out his true identity, she doesn't have to. Daisy stands there completely annoyed, repeating the words "a name" over and over in her head. Suddenly, things just got even worse. Before she can even think about flower names, she realizes she has to get rid of some uninvited guests first. Groan, smash. Just a few minutes ago, 2 stealthy assassins had crept up behind her, whispering for the maid to answer to them. Still, before they could even finish their threat, Daisy delivered a rapid-fire double hit, completely knocking them unconscious. She stares down at their slumped bodies, realizing the buried rats actually sent assassins after her again, and 2 of them this time. She casually decides she should just toss them over to the guy next door to use as free labor. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the courtyard. The headmaid walks right out, demanding to know what on earth is going on. Daisy instantly tenses up, realizing the most cold-hearted woman in midwintery just caught her red-handed. The head maid points at the bodies, calmly asking who they are. Daisy stammers, nervously sweating as she admits they are spies. When the head maid asks if she handled them all by herself and if she killed them, Daisy frantically shakes her hands, insisting she just knocked them out. Daisy's internal panic rises as the head maid stands there in complete silence, blowing smoke from her pipe. Honestly, her silence is making the situation even scarier. Daisy realizes that this woman didn't show even a single hint of surprise after seeing literal assassins, proving you really do need nerves of steel to be the head maid around here. Breaking the tense silence, the head maid commands Daisy to follow her for a moment. Daisy walks behind her, completely terrified that she is about to get fired over this, right when she was finally getting used to the maid work too. But as they walk into a grand, sunlit hallway, the head maid stops and turns around. To Daisy's absolute surprise, she tells her that she means quite a bit to her, because Daisy is the first person ever to last more than a single week here at the Weatherwoods estate. So, as a token of her genuine appreciation and to ask for her continued service, she asks a shocking question. Would she like to meet the master, Miss Daisy? The head maid notes that, of course, the choice is entirely hers, but inside Daisy's head, fireworks are practically going off. She sees the path laid out perfectly before her. Meet Viscount Weatherwoods, become closely tied to the Weatherwoods family, and get officially appointed as a maid for life. And to Daisy, life employment means she won't ever get fired. Even if she beats up 100 more spies, her paycheck is safe. Completely losing her composure, she blurts out in pure excitement that she is absolutely seeing him. The head maid just deadpans, reminding her to please answer politely and say she would be honored to meet him. Ecstatic Daisy practically vibrates with joy and curiosity. The path to meeting the master of the house demands absolute secrecy, and before our girl can step through the door, the head maid stops her cold. There is one final condition. Daisy must make a sacred vow never to reveal any information about the master, a binding piece of magic that the head maid intends to cast herself. Our girl is internally stunned, realizing that this strict head maid can actually use magic too. With a calm but intense demeanor, the head maid begins the ritual, demanding to know if Daisy Fager agrees never to disclose the secrets of the Weatherwoods family. Daisy confidently gives her agreement, but as the magical contract seals itself, the head maid senses something unusual. She notes that this clearly is not Daisy's first vow, explaining that a vow is engraved not on the temporary body but on the very soul, meaning that even if the body changes, the permanent mark never disappears, following a person for life like an unerasable tag. Knowing the futility of pushing further, the head maid drops the subject, acknowledging that Daisy wouldn't be able to answer anyway, and turns the key to unlock the door. Stepping into the room, the head maid instructs Daisy to come closer and show her proper respect. She formally introduces the master of the estate, Baron Grey Weatherwoods. But wait, what on earth is going on here? Daisy is completely struck dumb. In her long life, she has crossed paths with countless fates on the brutal battlefield, meeting all kinds of people, but she swears this is her absolute first time seeing a giant, mysterious egg acting as a nobleman. According to the head maid's serious explanation, this literal egg is the true heir personally entrusted by the master 4 years ago, meaning it inherited the entire title and fortune of the Rosebell family left by the former Baroness, Lady Anat Rosebell. However, because Count Rosebell is still alive and well, a strict prenuptial contract has kept the family money heavily tied up. Daisy stares at the object, pieces starting to connect in her mind as she wonders if the massive fortune is exactly what those persistent assassins are after, targeting a house that looks completely broke to any regular outsider. She recalls that Count Rosebell is a powerful veteran who fought directly alongside the legendary Sword Saint. Surely, if he discovered assassins were targeting his family's wealth, he wouldn't just sit still. Driven by pure curiosity, Daisy asks if the master is literally inside the shell, to which the head maid responds that it is highly probable since you can feel a distinct pulse when touching it. Over the past years, the shell has actually been growing in size, measured from 10 centimeters up to 13 centimeters, leading to the theory that the egg is acting as a protective barrier. Daisy's internal thoughts immediately take a hilariously absurd turn as she envisions a giant, majestic chicken hatching out to announce itself as Baron Weatherwoods. The head maid quickly snaps her out of her bizarre daydream, prompting Daisy to agree that the most plausible explanation is that the Baron is simply resting safely under the protection of the shell. Looking at the giant egg, Daisy silently wonders when he will finally wake up, resolving that the moment he does, she will immediately ask him to secure her a safe job as a lifetime maid. Later that day, the daily routine at the estate resumes, and Daisy finds herself gazing down at her small plant pot. She ponders over a major dilemma. What should she actually name the little sprout? A wave of melancholy hits her as she reminds herself that someone like her might not even live 3 more years, making her wonder if she even has the right to give a name to a living thing. Before she can spiral too deep into her thoughts, Lou's voice breaks the silence, warmly calling her out to have lunch and teasing that if she's late, they will eat everything themselves. Startled, she looks up and proudly announces that she has finally picked a name for the little plant. Rue? Lou blinks in surprise, pointing out that the name sounds way too familiar, and playfully asks if she is finally admitting to being a fan of his. Daisy fiercely shoots back that she chose it purely so he would take better care of the plant even after she is gone. Turning back to the small pot, she softly whispers, Asking little Rue what it thinks of the name and if it likes it, she gently tells the plant that while the master of the house will obviously take care of it, if it ever gets thirsty, it can just look over there. But Lou can't help but disrupt the sweet moment, leaning in with a highly provocative smirk to ask if she loves the plant enough to hug it and kiss it. Daisy's face completely tightens in pure annoyance at this crazy cook, her hands visibly trembling with rage at his shameless teasing. Thankfully, the head maid steps in to restore order, telling everyone just to sit down and eat while firmly instructing Mr. Lou to stop teasing Miss Daisy. Daisy quickly tries to calm herself down, reminding herself not to get swept up in his annoying pace. Changing the subject, the head maid asks Daisy to stop by the sewing room after lunch, and adds that while she is out in town, she should buy some fresh cooking ingredients other than their usual potatoes. Chewing her food with a comical, determined look, Daisy listens as the head maid kindly notes that if she wants little Rue to grow well, she needs to eat properly and stay strong too. Heading out into the bustling streets of Midwintry, Daisy is immediately met with a loud, chaotic atmosphere. Children are running around playing games, shouting about being the Supreme Commander Raffaello or pretending to be Lady Natasha. Looking around at the lively crowds, Daisy wonders if there is some kind of festival going on today. She steps up to a local shop to look around, and her eyes suddenly lock onto a newspaper stand. The headline of the weekly Midwintry boldly proclaims the 4th anniversary Peace Festival celebration, but the shocking subheadline catches her completely off guard. Grand Duke Raffaello absent this year. Daisy stares at the paper in absolute disbelief, repeating the name Raffaello in her mind as the puzzle pieces of the cook's identity smash together. Meanwhile, back in the local neighborhood, the captured assassins have met a hilarious and unfortunate fate. The friendly assassin butler stands outside, warmly welcoming the 2 new burdens Daisy shipped over, cheerfully exclaiming that it is perfect timing since they were short on extra help for their new merchant coalition. Our girl Daisy stands holding a piece of paper, staring at a congratulatory address for the 4th anniversary of Peace Day. The name Grand Duke Raffaello flashes before her eyes, and she realizes he has not changed at all from 4 years ago. She softly wonders if he has been well. A heavy wave of memories hits her as she thinks back to her own past, wondering how the war even brought itself to an end after her death, and if he deeply resents her for leaving in absolute defiance of orders. If he does resent her, could he ever truly forgive her? She desperately wants to know those answers, and yet, she hesitates. She recalls words once spoken to Andert, how she felt that if she had a lost brother, it might be him. But fear grips her heart. If he were ever to learn who she truly is, she fears he might deny every single moment they shared, and so she forces herself to turn away. Breaking her out of her deep thoughts, a local shopkeeper asks if that is all for her errands, and Daisy confirms it is. The shopkeeper warmly suggests she stop by the other shops too, mentioning they have massive discounts all week. When Daisy asks if it is because of the upcoming festival, the shopkeeper confirms it, explaining that Peace Day commemorates the ultimate victory in the magic war. However, another local steps in to reveal the real gossip. The big sale isn't actually because of Peace Day. Truth be told, some nasty bastards had been tormenting the local vendors for years, but they suddenly returned 4 years' worth of stolen stall fees all at once. Whispering eagerly, a woman asks if they've heard the rumors that some righteous soul gave those pub thugs the complete thrashing they deserved. To the locals, that kind of person is a real hero. They gush about how they would love to see the hero's face just once, claiming everyone would line up to buy them a meal, and the photographer's younger brother even promised to take a splendid portrait to put in a newspaper advertisement. Hearing this, our girl breaks out into a cold sweat, clearing her throat uncomfortably as she quickly excuses herself, saying she has business elsewhere. At the same time, the shopkeeper cheerfully bids her goodbye. Meanwhile, the daily operations continue, and we see the captured assassins serving lunch. Daisy wonders if this was all the butler fellow's order, realizing that staying open in the daytime would definitely bring in more useful information. The moment she walks into the tavern, the enthusiastic assassins salute her, shouting, "You have arrived, Captain Maid!" Daisy blinks in utter confusion at the bizarre title. They eagerly guide her to a seat at the bar, explaining that their butler captain told them she would be coming today, so they made all the preparations in advance. Daisy gets straight to the point, asking what they have found. A note was left for her last night telling her to come here, and one of the assassins slides it over, stating it was meant to be delivered straight to her. The note outlines 3 chilling target confirmations. Exterminate all servants of the Weatherwoods estate, retrieve all materials and objects within the estate related to Diane Kett, and beware of the assassin who will come later. This shocking revelation confirms it. Diane Kett's sacred relic is definitely hidden inside the Weatherwoods estate. The assassins proudly puff out their chests, exclaiming that just as Butler Captain instructed, they moved in secret through the shadows to gather this vital info, practically begging her for praise. Daisy looks at them with a mixture of pity and disbelief, thinking to herself that while that's all well and good, something has gone rather strange with these children. She tells them they did well, but firmly orders them never to call her captain again, to which they instantly snap to attention, shouting, "By your command." Later, the heavy front gates creak open as Daisy finally returns to the estate with her heavily loaded basket. The head maid greets her, and Daisy proudly presents the basket, announcing that the shopping is successfully done. The head maid thanks her for her hard work, and just as Daisy turns to put things in order, the head maid stops her, apologizing for bringing up something so incredibly strange out of nowhere. With a very serious expression, she asks if Daisy would ever consider disguising herself as a man. Our girl instantly freezes, a cold sweat breaking out as panic grips her mind. She internally freaks out, wondering if they have somehow uncovered her secret past, but no, how could they possibly know? Sensing her intense distress, the head maid quickly sighs and tells her just to let it go in one ear and out the other, apologizing for startling her. Realizing she hasn't been found out after all, Daisy lets out a breath of relief and asks why on earth she would need to disguise herself. The head maid explains that she was secretly hoping Daisy might attend the prestigious noble council in the Viscount's stead. Daisy is completely baffled, wondering why a regular maid would ever go to such an elite gathering. The head maid pinpoints the exact problem. As Daisy already knows, their Viscount is a completely smooth little egg, so he obviously cannot attend himself. But before they can finish their private conversation, heavy footsteps echo behind them. Oh ho, things just got a whole lot worse. With a deeply menacing and intense aura, Mr. Lou steps forward with his arms crossed, a sharp, dangerous smirk on his face. He smoothly chimes in, stating he believes he just heard something rather interesting. The head maid and Daisy gasp in absolute horror, turning around to face the terrifying cook. With a deadly look in his eyes, Lou leans in and demands to know more, questioning if they are actually saying that the mysterious, faceless master of Weatherwoods is, in fact, a literal egg. Things just got a whole lot worse in the Weatherwoods estate. Standing with his arms crossed and sporting a sharp, dangerous smirk, the menacing cook, Mr. Lou, demands to know the truth behind their whispers. He locks his eyes onto the terrified head maid and Daisy, asking if the mysterious, faceless master of Weatherwoods is actually a literal egg. A tense sweat breaks out as the head maid nervously chuckles, trying to deflect the situation by claiming Mr. Lou must have misheard her. She quickly fabricates a story, saying she was merely mentioning that the master wanted to eat a smooth egg times dish, but Lou isn't buying it for a single second. He points out how incredibly suspicious it is to whisper about a dish behind the chef's back, mockingly questioning how amazing this secret recipe must be. He zeroes in on Daisy's wrist, noting that if the recipe requires an oath to keep it safe, it must be a legendary secret passed down through generations. Daisy panics internally, completely shocked that he noticed the magical oath mark on her wrist. Lou sighs dramatically, acting deeply hurt that the two women are keeping secrets from him just because Daisy arrived at the mansion a few days earlier. He reminds them that there are only 3 total employees in the entire house, and to prove his trustworthiness, he offers to make an oath of his own. To sweeten the deal, he even promises to assist Daisy with her upcoming male disguise debut at the prestigious Noble Council. Before anyone can react, Lou dramatically unbuttons his sleeve to reveal his arm, exposing a mind-blowing sight. His skin is entirely covered in glowing, overlapping magical scars from previous oaths. The head maid gasps in absolute shock at the sight of the scars, but Lou just smirks, telling her not to be too surprised. It just proves how exceptionally well he keeps secrets, adding with a grin that he would have been dead by now if he didn't. Stunned, the head maid asks exactly how many oaths he has made. Lou casually replies that he completely stopped counting after reaching 101. Daisy stares at him in absolute disbelief, realizing that even with all the crazy ups and downs she has experienced in her own life, she has never seen anyone survive making that many magical oaths. With a playful expression, Lou asks if they are finally ready to spill the truth, teasing that he might just cry if they refuse. With the secret officially out, Ludid gets right to work examining the family's prized treasure, the mysterious egg. He whoos in deep concentration, running his hands along its solid outer shell and admiring its elegant curves. Suddenly, a bright crimson glow flashes as the egg's defenses trigger, displaying a mechanical damage detected warning, followed instantly by an outer shell restoration spell. Magic circles erupt around the object as the outer layer magically heals itself. Lou smiles knowingly. The bizarre, perverted aesthetic taste of the exterior and the distinct eyeball mark that manifests whenever the magic activates make it completely obvious to him. He confidently declares that this artifact is an eyeball created by none other than the legendary Diane Kett. The head maid reels back in complete shock. She argues that it should be impossible, explaining that while she always knew the egg was a magic tool meant to protect the Viscount, she can distinctly feel a rhythmic heartbeat whenever she presses her ear against it. Because of that, she was entirely certain the true Viscount was resting safely inside. To settle the mystery once and for all, Lou presents a flawless, highly detailed magic interpretation manual that he effortlessly generated himself. The head maid is utterly amazed by the precision of his analysis, which Lou smugly attributes to his own unprecedented genius. He breaks down the true purpose of the magical tool. It was built to protect the Weatherwoods family by activating a massive, wide-area attack spell in the event of an absolute emergency. As for the heartbeat, Lou delivers the crushing truth: it is nothing more than a periodic wavelength emitted by the danger detection sensor engraved on the front. Unfortunately, the Viscount is absolutely not inside the egg. Lou observes the head maid, noting how devastated she looks. He acknowledges how incredibly empty and futile it must feel to realize she spent years guarding a mere machine, believing it was her master. But instead of staying sad, the head maid's eyes suddenly sparkle with intense academic curiosity. She presses Lou with endless questions, demanding to know where he came from and who taught him magic, because reaching such a high level at his young age should be physically impossible. She laments that every single time she attempts interpretation magic, her vision blanks out and she passes out completely, wondering if she just needs more practice. Daisy watches the head maid ramble, completely deadpan, realizing she worried for nothing because mages are simply a different breed of crazy. However, Daisy focuses on a much greater detail that has been bothering her. She fixes a sharp look on Lou, directly asking if he personally knows Diane Checked, since he casually referred to him as that guy earlier. Lou gives a mysterious smile, asking if she is truly curious. Daisy observes his reaction and realizes without a doubt that they are well acquainted. This sends a chill down her spine. Diane Checked died long before she was even born, meaning that if Lou personally knew him, this man has successfully mastered forbidden life extension magic. No wonder he is so completely unhinged. Now that the identity of their eccentric employer has been cleared up, Lou shifts the conversation back to Daisy's impending debut at the Noble Council, proudly boasting that a genius mage of his caliber will have absolutely no problem using magic to deceive the nobles perfectly. The head maid agrees that his magical prowess makes the disguise foolproof. Still, another major issue keeps her from feeling at ease. She simply cannot bring herself to send Daisy into the high society viper's nest all alone. To solve this, she proposes a wild new strategy they need to get the Viscount married. By placing a wife right by Daisy's side, they will have the perfect cover to control the situation at the gathering appropriately. The head maid thinks it is an excellent idea, but she immediately sighs, realizing that if she takes on the role of the wife herself, she would be forced to leave the mansion, leaving no one behind to protect the estate and the Viscount's treasure. Seeing her dilemma, Daisy quickly chimes in to reassure her, stating she absolutely cannot let the head maid go through such trouble. But before anyone can suggest an alternative, Lou steps forward with a brilliant, highly chaotic look in his eyes. With absolute confidence, he volunteers for the job, shouting that he will be the one to do it. He will officially become the new Viscountess of Weatherwoods. Between the commander-in-chief's severe injuries and the devastating supply shortages, the vanguard troops are pushed to their absolute limits. Late into the night, high-ranking military officials argue intensely inside a dim tent. One commander desperately slams the table, shouting that the proposed plan to assassinate the enemy leader Mephisto is a complete suicide mission. Another points out that if they can just draw Mephisto's attention, they might buy enough time to secure critical supplies and medical treatments. Suddenly, the tent curtains part. Grand Duke Raffaello steps forward, heavily wrapped in bandages and looking deathly pale. He instantly shuts down the argument, stating that assassination is ridiculous, and he has no intention of sending any of his men alone into the jaws of death. Besides, with the success rate being so low, he refuses to take a gamble with no chance of winning. Hearing this, a familiar voice scoffs with a smirk. Sir Andert mocks him, teasing that a corpse seems to be crawling out and noting that the effects of the mercy herb must be the real deal. But then, Andert's expression turns dead serious. He declares that there actually is a chance of winning if he is the one who goes. Before anyone can react, Raffaello furiously grabs Andert by the collar, shouting his name. With intense desperation, the Grand Duke orders him never to do such a thing, commanding that he must stay by his side until this war is over. Andert simply smiles back, softly whispering his title before the memory suddenly breaks. Raffaello snaps awake in the middle of the night, gasping in deep pain as his loyal aide, Deschero, rushes to his side asking if he is all right. Phew. The Grand Duke catches his breath, asking what brings Deschero to his room at this hour. Deschero looks at him with deep worry, asking if it was that recurring dream again, noting that his Grace's complexion looks terrible. Raffaello brushes it off, demanding to know his business. Deschero delivers urgent news from the capital. The Emperor privately discussed the conquest of the North with 5 nobles. Raffaello immediately realizes the target is the mines in the North Deus Mountains, recognizing that the Emperor is absolutely desperate to drive him back to the dangerous front lines. He asks if there are any other reports. Deschero reveals that about a month ago, a survivor named Bertie Lucian was reportedly found on Queen Island. She is around 170 centimeters tall with a slender build, currently settled in Midwintree working as a maid, and believe it or not, the reports claim she bears a striking resemblance to Sir Andert. However, the message was intercepted twice, making this the 3rd attempt to deliver it. Raffaello scoffs, thinking it must just be someone who looks like him, remembering that Andert explicitly told him his older sister died during the Queen Island incident, and his parents passed away long before that. He coldly orders Deschero to filter out such unreliable news before it ever reaches him, and the aide bows to his wishes. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Daisy stands alone, staring deeply into the magic manual. She realizes the family's treasure is actually the eye of Diane Checked, and she begrudgingly admits she would have preferred the real Viscount to be inside. At this rate, she will have to steal the relic secretly to use it, but she feels relieved that it is right in front of her. She wonders if the other relics are weapons too, noting that wide-range attack magic and healing magic are total opposites. Breaking her out of her thoughts, Mr. Lou suddenly appears at the door, noting that the dream of extending one's lifespan is long and arduous. He asks what she is thinking about and cheerfully invites her to go out somewhere. Daisy blinks in confusion, wondering why they are running an errand, only to find herself standing right inside a high-end clothing boutique. The manager rings the bell, warmly welcoming them. Lou points to the displays, announcing it is time to prepare for a successful debutante. Daisy instantly frowns, muttering that she doesn't have any money, but Lou proudly smiles, stating it is perfectly fine because he is incredibly rich. He adds that the head maid already gave her full permission since he is footing the bill. Lou then fires off a massive order to the tailor: a dress and suit for the ball and banquet, 2 sets of everyday clothes, a spring coat, 2 sets of hats and gloves, 2 sets of pajamas, 4 sets of socks and underwear, and even tea party attire. He sets a strict deadline of just 15 days. The tailor panics, apologizing that such a massive order is a bit impossible in 15 days. But the moment Lou smoothly drops the name of the reclusive Viscount and Viscountess of Weatherwoods, the manager gasps in shock. Realizing this is a golden opportunity to serve the mysterious nobility, the manager instantly takes charge, eagerly volunteering for the job and offering to visit the mansion for measurements. Lou waves it off, explaining the Viscountess is far too busy, so they will use Daisy as a base model since she shares a similar height and skin tone. Daisy quickly pulls Lou aside, whispering furiously. She reminds him that he said he would be the Viscountess, questioning why he is getting clothes fitted to her times size and asking if he is changing roles. Lou whispers back, explaining it is much easier to use transformation magic if he has a precise base model to work with. He teases that he was planning to transform Daisy to match his own massive build instead, asking if she would prefer that. Daisy shudders, saying she hates the idea because he is far too big in many ways. Lou smirks playfully, asking exactly what part of him is too big. Blushing and annoyed, Daisy tells the crazy man never to mind that, instructing the tailor to just make the Viscount's outfit for someone 180 centimeters tall with developed arm muscles and a thin waist, recalling Andert's comfortable physique. Lou sighs, muttering that he cannot understand her aesthetic sense for choosing such a puny body. The tailor happily gets to work, asking if they should fit the Viscount's outfit to Lou's build, just like the Viscountess's. Lou agrees, and a brief flash of magic leaves the tailors dazed, wondering if something just changed. The tailors marvel at how both of them have such absolutely wonderful figures, leading them away to take measurements. They gush over the designs, suggesting a soft silk dress that highlights the silhouette or a bold, trendy style that reveals the shoulders, while staring at Lou in awe. Flushed and completely astonished by how incredible they look together, the tailors gasp that they truly make a perfect pair. Dressing up is absolutely exhausting. Our girl Daisy walks down the street feeling completely drained, muttering that she would honestly rather go and do cleaning instead. Behind her, the boutique tailors are still gushing over how pretty she looks, begging her to try on even more clothes. Seeing her total exhaustion, Lou leans in with a sly look and asks if he should perhaps buy her some ice cream. Instantly, Daisy's suspicion redlines. She glares at him, demanding to know what he is trying to make her do now. Lou explains that the stick and the carrot always go hand in hand, playfully questioning why else anyone would give treats to a dog while training it. Daisy fumes internally, thinking, "Am I a dog?" Undeterred, Lou gives her a gentle push on the shoulder, telling her that if she understands, she should wait quietly under the shade over there while he goes to get it. Daisy wanders off into a quiet, heavily wooded area. As she walks, she realizes she has never been around this place before, eventually stopping in front of a large stone structure. Her eyes widen as she reads the inscription, Midwinter National Peace Memorial. She wonders if it is a cemetery established for honoring the Allied forces, but suddenly remembers that Lou explicitly told her to wait quietly. Before she can turn back, a dark, chilling voice echoes out of nowhere, calling out to her, "Hey, where are you looking?" Suddenly, the peaceful sky fractures and Daisy's reality completely warps. The ground turns into a bloody, war-torn battlefield. In a horrific, sudden flashback, a desperate commander screams for everyone to pull themselves together because there are simply too many enemies in the Mephisto Legion. The soldier panics, yelling that they should give up and evacuate the civilians. Blood is everywhere, and a dying soldier collapses right into the arms of Sir Andert, who is actually Daisy's past self. The dying man coughs up blood, wheezing that he is already a goner, and begs Andert to convey his final goodbyes to his mother. Andert grabs him tightly, fiercely shouting for him to cut the bullshit, telling him to grab onto him quickly and say it to his mother himself when the war ends. But then, Lou's voice pierces through the carnage, calmly telling her no, the war is over. Daisy, completely trapped in the hallucination, looks around wildly, shouting back, asking if he can't see the demons on the ridge over there, and yelling at him not to just stand there but to help move the wounded. Lou gently places a hand on her shoulder and softly reassures her that there is no demon legion here, telling her it is time for her to come back now. Trembling, Daisy asks if it is really over, and Lou confirms that yes, no one else is going to die. He cracks a small joke to snap her out of it, saying the only thing that's going to die right now is the ice cream he is holding, before gently telling her, "Let's go home now." Daisy completely collapses into his arms, passing out cold. When she finally opens her eyes, she finds herself resting safely in a dim, lavish room. She looks around, asking where she is, and Lou's voice answers from the side, telling her the water is right next to her. Realizing that hearing Lou's voice during the panic attack wasn't a dream, she sits up, wondering if her senses have dulled so much that she can no longer tell reality apart from an illusion. She looks at Lu and quietly thanks him for helping her, admitting he saved her life. Lu, sitting comfortably on a chair, cheekily replies that the melted ice cream would have loved to hear that thank you too. Daisy asks if he threw it away, telling him he should have just eaten it all. Lu sighs dramatically, saying he would have loved to, but he also had to carry someone home. Daisy grumbles that he is being highly patronizing, though she internally admits she can't argue with the facts. Noticing the time, Daisy asks if he has been nursing her all this time since it seems late. Lu casually answers that the servants did all the work rather than him. Daisy blinks, questioning if he means the butler and the assassins, and Lu clarifies he means all of them, including the other trash she dumped on him. He lets out a sharp times, tisk, explaining he told the head maid she would be late today by fabricating an excuse that Miss Daisy buried someone again and needs special education. Daisy groans in annoyance at the terrible excuse. Shifting to a serious note, Daisy asks Lu if the real reason he came to Weatherwoods is because of Diane Check's artifact, directly asking if he plans to steal it from the Viscount. Lu smirks, reminding her he already said he would tell her once she makes the flower bloom. Daisy sighs, muttering about him playing hard to get just to get a wife for free, but presses on, stating she is just curious since it's obvious he isn't a normal person either. Lu leans forward with a devastatingly charming smirk, telling her that since she's so curious, he'll tell her this much. Don't fall for me, you'll only end up hurting yourself. Daisy gives him a flat look, bluntly asking when he is going to stop spouting that crazy nonsense. Lu just chuckles, saying he'll stop around the time Miss Daisy gives up on him. Suddenly, Lu's demeanor turns entirely serious as he asks if she experiences things like today often. Daisy looks away, admitting this is the first time she has ever had hallucinations, though the nightmares started a few days ago. Lu ponders this, asking if there was any painful incident recently that could have triggered them. When Daisy says no, he flips the question, asking if there was any joyful incident that could make her forget about the nightmares for a while. Daisy groans, murmuring that nothing like that really happened. Lu sighs deeply, teasing that poor Miss Daisy doesn't have an answer for anything he asks, but he firmly tells her she just hasn't realized it yet. He suggests they try a little introspection, tapping her forehead and telling her to close her eyes and think deeply. He whispers the ultimate question, "What am I?" Daisy closes her eyes, and her mind drifts back through her fragmented identities. She thinks of herself now, Daisy Fager. Then, she remembers the man she once was, a fierce commander called Andert Fager. And finally, her mind drifts even longer and further back into the past, remembering the very beginning, when she was a woman called Paki. Can someone truly say they know me just by my name? A name is usually a gift, carefully crafted with a parent's affection, and that affection gives someone a real sense of responsibility over their own existence. But that wasn't the case for our girl. Daisy was simply the most common, plain name in the Empire, chosen intentionally to mask a secret identity. It was a tactical choice to ensure that even if she only lived for a brief 3 years, she would leave absolutely no trace behind on this land. Yet, believe it or not, she genuinely enjoyed this job as a maid, secured through such a thoughtless name. There was a profound, quiet peace in simply dusting things off and wiping windows until they shined, knowing she could finally be a normal member of society. She didn't have to be Andert, and she didn't have to slay demons. It wasn't that she lacked affection for the name either. She looks back at the memory of planting a literal daisy flower, admiring how perfectly it fits the spring and how pretty it is. The past self who chose to live as Andert, and the current self who lives as Daisy, every single moment is layered one on top of the other, and all of it makes up who she is. She finally knows exactly who she is, realizing that the her of tomorrow will be even better than the her of today. In this beautiful moment of clarity, her soul, which once felt so incredibly fragile it might shatter, becomes entirely solid. Suddenly, Lu shatters the silence, casually asking if this is her very first time experiencing the state of unity of mind and body. Daisy blinks, entirely caught off guard as Lu explains that it is, simply put, the process of ascending to a half-god. Even though she has only just taken her first baby steps, it is an incredible feat. Stunned, Daisy wonders if a half-god means something like Mephisto or Diane Ket, demanding to know why this is happening to her. Lu notes that from the looks of it, she is quite a high-level swordmaster, asking if her master never taught her about the unity of mind and body. Daisy frowns, thinking that technically every single person she met on the bloody battlefield was her master. But wait, how on earth did he know she was a swordmaster? Lu just gives a mysterious smirk and tells her it's a secret, adding that he really loves it when she makes that shocked face. He teases that he would love to stay and mess with her more, but unfortunately, the sun is already up. Before anyone can react, the head maid suddenly storms into the room. She fixes Daisy with a stern glare, warning her that if she is late one more time, she is docking her pay. Daisy panics internally, screaming in absolute horror over her precious wages. As if things weren't already bad enough, the head maid adds that starting today, she will be conducting brutal, noble etiquette lessons during Daisy's noon breaks. Our poor girl laments the tragic loss of her break time, completely exhausted before the day has even begun. A few days pass after that chaotic realization that self-reflection is an absolute luxury for the working class, and the day of the grand debut finally arrives. Inside the dressing room, the head maid gasps, admitting that while she knows transformation magic isn't exactly high tier, The results before her eyes are truly beautiful and absolutely perfect. Standing tall is a stunning, sophisticated nobleman. Daisy looks at her reflection, noting that he looks pretty good with elegant blonde hair, striking blue eyes, and clean hands raised in comfort without a single callus. She begrudgingly compliments Lu, telling him he did a pretty good job transforming her exactly how she wanted. The head maid smiles warmly, assuring her she looks like a perfect, sophisticated member of the Weatherwoods family. Daisy sighs, reminding herself that even if she is disguised as the former Viscount's niece, on the inside, she is just a maid, and one on the verge of a pay cut no less. For someone in that stressful position, she surprisingly doesn't look awkward at all. Daisy smirks, noting that she isn't exactly ordinary and is practically the definition of bold. The head maid nervously tells her it is good to be bold, but begs her to be careful. Daisy tells her to stop worrying because the die is cast, confidently stating that if a problem arises, Lu will handle it just like always. But the moment the curtain pulls back, the head maid's heart completely skips a beat. Standing before them is an absolute vision of elegance and beauty. The head maid blushes furiously, her eyes turning into literal hearts as she stares at this gorgeous person. Daisy, however, remains completely deadpan, telling herself not to fall for it because it is just Lu. Wearing a glamorous dress, Lu playfully winks and points a finger at Daisy, telling his woman, for the time being, not to go around flirting with other girls or guys, and ordering her to stay composed. Daisy rolls her eyes, firing back that he means time's his man, not his woman. Lu leans in close, asking her to feel it out and teasingly asking if this breathtaking beauty doesn't just take her breath away. Daisy retorts that since he is technically neither a woman nor a man right now, it means he can charm both sides, so he needs to be twice as careful. The identity Lu personally stole to act as Viscount Weatherwood's wife is Morian Sereny, the stunning third daughter of a count from the Northern Union. At first, even the head maid strongly opposed the reckless plan, arguing that they couldn't just casually steal someone's identity. But Lu effortlessly settled the matter, insisting it wouldn't be a problem. Daisy recalls that she did have to force him to swear another magical oath not to cause any harm, exasperatedly realizing that every single time she is too lazy to persuade someone, she just uses an oath to brush it off. Now, as they prepare to leave, the head maid clasps her hands together, praying that they return safely, without any major trouble, and begging them to look after the Weatherwoods family. Lu, fully immersed in his role as the gorgeous new Viscountess, loops his arm tightly through Daisy's. With a radiant, chaotic smile, he tells her just to call him Morian, promising that they are going to be the most passionately in love newlyweds the world has ever seen. Sitting in the carriage, our disguised maid blinks, completely caught off guard by the sheer chaos of their current situation. She stares at her companion and speaks up, asking Morian for just one simple question. But Lu, fully committed to his breathtaking feminine disguise, doesn't even hesitate to cut her off with a playful smirk. He confidently shuts her down, telling her no thanks, and notes that if she is going to ask, she needs to get on her knees and say, "Please tell me, master." Honestly, Daisy is too exhausted to argue, so she drops all her pride right then and there, delivering a deadpan plea, "Please tell me, master." Seeing her cooperate so easily, Lu smiles, giving her the green light to go ahead and ask. Daisy leans forward, her mind swirling with the profound events of the past few days. She explains that when someone becomes a demigod, their body undergoes major changes, and she heard that all illnesses and scars disappear. With a sudden flicker of intense hope in her eyes, she asks if that miraculous healing applies to the soul too. You see, her mind is racing with the harsh reality of her condition. Her lifespan being reduced to a mere 3 years was partly because her body had died, but it must also be due to Mephisto's magic being strong enough to crack even the soul itself. If becoming a demigod could actually heal the soul as well, then there would be absolutely no need to continue searching for Diane Kett's relic. But before she can get lost in the fantasy, Lu shatters her daydream with a sharp, piercing stare. He tells her she has big dreams, doesn't she? He questions if she really thinks she could become a demigod just by trying. He points out that she only managed to unify her body and mind by complete accident, so did she think the other stages would come just as easily? He mocks her, asking if she wants to become the luckiest maid in the world, living out her full lifespan without putting in much effort. Daisy looks away, sweating nervously, thinking to herself that he is as sharp as ever. Lu's expression turns incredibly serious as he leans in close, whispering to her not to cling to empty hopes. Suddenly, a loud knock sounds against the carriage door. The heavy atmosphere breaks instantly as Lu adjusts his posture and tells her to get ready, because it is time to work. He orders her to see that the task he gave her is done well. Daisy straightens her elegant, noble tie, offering a firm, polite response that she understands. Yet inside, she can't help but realize that all of this elaborate setup was entirely Lu's doing. Looking out at the grand scenery, memories from 9 long years ago suddenly flashed through her mind. It was the exact day Natasha, the greatest mage of the Allied forces, was formally named the Crown Princess of the Penrhoda Empire. Because of the ongoing war, the investiture ceremony had to be held very simply. Daisy vividly remembers Natasha standing tall, looking at her with absolute confidence and asking, "Andert, you said you'd give me any gift to celebrate my becoming Crown Princess, didn't you?" Back then, living as the legendary warrior Andert, she had confidently replied, "Yes, Your Highness." as long as it's not something as difficult as plucking a star from the sky. But Natasha had completely stunned everyone by declaring, "Then marry me. I will devote my entire life to protecting you." It was remembered across the land as the legendary day a crown princess earnestly proposed to a commoner in front of the entire world. Daisy scratches her cheek awkwardly, thinking to herself that Natasha really was an incredibly interesting person, and she can't help but wonder how she is doing these days. But her nostalgia is instantly cut short when a delicate hand suddenly rests on her arm. Lu leans in, his beautiful female disguise radiating an aura of pure, terrifying jealousy. In a sweet but deadly voice, he calls out to his honey, asking what has got her so completely lost in thought. Daisy breaks out into a cold sweat, stammering that it is nothing in particular. But Lu sees right through her. He glares at her intensely, calling her a liar and accusing her of thinking about a woman. He grips her tightly, issuing a chilling warning. "Careful. If you step out of line, I might just cut off something you'll miss." Shivers run straight down Daisy's spine as she panics internally, wondering if this terrifying dynamic is what married life is actually supposed to feel like. Before things can get any more awkward, they finally arrive at the high-speed airship boarding platform. The moment they step out, the surrounding crowd instantly erupts into frantic whispers. Onlookers stare in absolute awe, whispering to each other, wondering who that gorgeous woman is, noting that she is far prettier than anyone else, and even pointing out how incredibly nice she smells. An attendant approaches them, trembling with nervous respect, stammering out a greeting to the Lord and Lady Viscount Weatherwoods, and politely guiding them forward while promising that their luggage will be moved to their room separately. When the attendant mentions that a grand banquet is currently underway and asks if he should escort them there, Daisy gives a composed nod. The large double doors are thrown open with a distinct click, and the announcer Ludley declares the entrance of Lord and Lady Viscount Weatherwoods. As they step into the luxurious ballroom, the noble guests immediately start gossiping. People whisper in shock, noting that they heard the Viscount of Weatherwoods never shows his face, while the ladies gasp at how jaw-droppingly beautiful his wife is. Sensing the intense pressure, Daisy glances over and quietly tells Lou that he is drawing everyone's attention, reminding him of how the attendant reacted earlier. Lou just smiles gracefully, lightly pinching her arm while whispering back that she needs to stop complaining when she has such a beautiful wife. He nudges her forward, telling her to go on and try talking to the guests exactly like the headmaid taught her, asking if she remembers all their names. Daisy confidently smirks, claiming that she does. She spots an imposing older man, points right at him and calls out, "You there?" But internally, she completely panics, realizing she didn't review the notes at all and doesn't remember a single name. The older noble freezes in absolute shock, demanding to know if he is really the Viscount of Weatherwoods. Daisy instantly recognizes him. It is Count Rosabelle, the father-in-law of the previous Viscount Weatherwoods, and more importantly, a fierce comrade she once fought alongside on the battlefield. His hair has gone a bit gray over the years, but those piercing, sharp eyes haven't changed one bit. Sensing her hesitation, Lou gives Daisy another sharp pinch, Ludley prompting her to greet the Count. Daisy quickly snaps into character, politely bowing and saying that he must be Count Rosabelle. She smoothly lies, claiming she has heard many legendary tales of his valor from her aunt since she was young. The Count's tough exterior completely melts, his eyes widening as he blushes and mutters, "And not talked about me?" Daisy doubles down on the flattery, assuring him that to her, he is like a true hero. Watching his emotional reaction, Daisy realizes that past or present, the Count still absolutely dotes on his daughter, though she never realized that his daughter was the former Viscountess. Clearing his throat, the Count shifts his attention to the gorgeous lady standing beside her, noting the lovely lady's presence. Lou steps forward with unmatched elegance, introducing himself as Maurian Serenier, stating it is an absolute honor to meet the famed commander of the Allied forces. The Count smiles, but his eyebrows furrow in confusion at the name Serenier, noting that she is all the way out here from the Northern Continental Union Church. He remarks that she has come an incredibly long way. Lou leans against Daisy affectionately, delivering a line dripping with romance, claiming that for the sake of his beloved husband, he could go even farther. Daisy visibly flinches at the word husband, her mind flashing back to the grueling noble etiquette training from the headmaid. The headmaid had been an absolute hardliner, the kind of person who would only let training end if every single movement was executed without a single error. Daisy remembers the torturous daily routine of memorizing menus, reporting to seniors every hour, cleaning barracks, and doing endless laundry. It was a strict hierarchy where failing to salute meant immediate punishment. Coming back to reality, Daisy looks at the Count, understanding exactly why he might be offended. Considering she is supposed to be just the nephew of the son-in-law who drained his daughter's fortune completely dry and didn't even bother to greet him or inform him of the marriage, it is no wonder the Count would take offense. She bows deeply, offering her sincere apologies and stating there were complicated circumstances. She thinks to herself that even if the Count stares at her intensely, she isn't even the real Viscount anyway. Thankfully, Count Rosabelle lets out a sigh, admitting it is a massive relief that the Weatherwoods family line hasn't been completely cut off. However, he sternly advises them to be careful, as not everyone will be understanding of their circumstances. Daisy thanks him for the advice, relieved that he doesn't seem hostile. Turning to Lou, Daisy asks if they should talk to more people now. But Lou declines, suggesting they head straight to their private room instead, confidently predicting that the guests will find them on their own. And boy, is he right. The moment they retreat, a non-stop flood of nobles begins swarming their door, desperate to catch a glimpse of the mysterious couple. One after another, voices echo through the hallway, desperately calling out for the Viscount, expressing what a true pleasure it is to meet him, and begging for just a moment of his time. Inside the room, Daisy collapses onto the bed in sheer exhaustion, noting that a maid's life is just an endless chain of pure fatigue. She tells Lou that she is going to sleep for a bit, asking him to wake her before the grand banquet officially begins. She decides to leave the rest of the chaos to Lou so she can finally enjoy a quick, peaceful nap. She closes her eyes, pouring herself a warm cup of tea and taking a slow sip. But as she drifts off to sleep, she notes that for some strange reason, her arm feels incredibly heavy. Time slips away and the scene abruptly shifts. Daisy's eyes flutter open as the bright, warm sunlight pours directly into the room. She blinks in complete, utter confusion, muttering to herself, "Huh? Morning?" She looks down, and her heart completely stops. There, lying right beside her in the bright morning light, surrounded by beautiful, blooming flowers, is Lou. The two of them are tangled up in the sheets, staring deeply into each other's eyes in total silence. A massive, chaotic question mark pops into the air as Daisy realizes they just slept through the entire night together. Morning arrives with the soft glow of sunlight, but the peaceful mood is instantly shattered. Our boy Daisy wakes up to a jaw-dropping sight. A beautiful woman with glowing eyes is leaning right over him, softly asking if her honey is finally awake. Daisy lets out a terrified scream, completely losing his mind. But the stunning beauty, who is actually just Lou in a flawless disguise, quickly snaps at him to stop making such a massive fuss. Lou complains that Daisy is totally breaking his immersion in the act and coldly threatens to throw him right off the high-speed airship if he keeps this up. Daisy stammers back that he is going way too far, but Lou just smirks, pointing out that they are supposed to be a newlywed couple anyway. Daisy can only sigh in sheer disbelief at this ridiculous logic. Lou leans in close, asking in a sweet voice if his dear Daisy is acting all blunt and clipped again just because he is embarrassed. Honestly, Daisy finds it completely annoying to see Lou acting like this with a woman's face, but since he is playing the role of the beloved Viscount, Daisy decides to tolerate it for now. Lou tells him to finally get out of bed and hands over the official schedule for the Black Regalo Nobility Council. Glancing at the paper, Daisy notes that the entire day is filled with nothing but social gatherings and leisure activities. Lou explains that this is exactly how nobles work. They invest heavy time and effort just to build strong relationships. But things just got even more serious. Lou gets ready to leave immediately, revealing that he needs to investigate the mysterious client who sent assassins after the Weatherwoods family. As solid proof, the moment Lou announced his attendance at the council, the assassins completely stopped their movements. Daisy quickly pieces it together, wondering if the enemy stopped because they can now just meet them directly without needing to send killers. Lou smiles warmly, praising his honey for being so smart, before casually leaving the room. But right before he goes, he leans down and plants a sudden kiss right on Daisy's chin. Daisy stands there completely frozen, trembling with absolute rage. He screams internally, calling Lou a crazy bastard for daring to press his lips against another man's chin. That definitely had absolutely nothing to do with the mission. Trying to clear his head, Daisy heads out into the grand hallway. Suddenly, two wealthy-looking young men clear their throats and nervously approach him, mistakenly believing he is the real Viscount Weatherwoods. The first young man, Yegersey, proudly states that his father runs a major newspaper company. In contrast, E. II, Volquin, introduces himself by boasting that his father is a prominent bank president. Daisy casually dismisses the formalities, completely mixing up their names as Yequin and Volkashi. The two guys awkwardly correct him, but Daisy just brushes it off, butchering their names a second time. Eager to network, the young men ask if they can drop the strict formalities and become casual friends, but they instantly freeze in shock when they realize that they are only upper-class citizens, not actual nobles. Meanwhile, a massive uproar echoes from the lower floor as a crowd of excited guests dashes past, shouting that a huge event is about to start. Curious, Daisy asks the two men what all the exciting noise is about down there. The men look surprised and ask if it is that time already, inviting him to join them. Daisy politely declines since he is in a bit of a hurry, but he still can't help but peer over the grand balcony. Down below, an absolute sea of people has gathered to witness the famous Berkeley-Grayton succession battle. The crowd whispers in excitement about the legendary ducal house, known as the true protectors of the Penn-Loda imperial family. Throughout the empire's history, the title of Grand Duke has always been held by the absolute strongest warrior, regardless of age, gender, or blood relation. However, a candidate still needs to be fully acknowledged by both the previous head and the emperor himself. Currently, the Grand Duke holding that terrifying title is the legendary sword saint, Zahark Berkeley-Grayton. But today, everyone's eyes are glued to a striking figure with long silver hair and sharp blue eyes. It is the second in line for succession, Jin Berkeley-Grayton, who is currently facing off against the fifth in line, a warrior named Auster. The crowd goes wild, calling Jin an absolute prodigy for reaching such a terrifying level of swordsmanship at such a young age. Looking down at the silver-haired prodigy, Daisy instantly remembers a secret conversation from his past. He recalls being told that this exact kid is actually the secret head of Clan, the notorious assassination guild. The informant had explained that if Jin dies or is stripped of his succession rights, clan will completely fall apart, meaning the deadly reapers targeting Daisy will finally disappear forever. The person had promised to give Daisy a crucial clue about the Dianket artifact and information about Master Lu if he succeeded. Daisy silently scoffs, fully believing that all of it is just a massive lie anyway. He wonders why someone with so much wealth and power would ever bother running a literal assassination guild in the first place. Suddenly, the battlefield erupts into pure chaos. Jin unleashes a fierce, blinding assault, his eyes glowing with the manic energy of a sword demon, a person completely possessed by the blade. The Berkeley family is known to be a straightforward bunch who despise cheap tricks, and Jin proves it by screaming at his opponent to come at him with everything he has. The loud clashing of their swords rings through the entire hall. Oster struggles desperately, but Jin just laughs maniacally, shouting that it would be a total shame to end the fight so easily. To everyone's absolute surprise, Daisy's eyes widen in sheer horror as he watches the battle. He can literally hear a voice echoing through the air, realizing with absolute shock that the sword itself is speaking. Before anyone can react, Jin delivers a brutal, decisive strike, completely overpowering Oster and pinning him flat on the ground with a blade pressed directly against his throat. Daisy stands frozen in disbelief, realizing the terrifying truth Jin has already reached the legendary first stage of mind-body unity, allowing him to hear the voice of the sword clearly. But the real shock comes a second later. Jin suddenly turns around, his cold, piercing gaze locking directly onto Daisy up on the balcony. Sheathing his weapon, the silver-haired demon walks straight toward him, politely apologizing for the sudden intrusion upon their very first meeting. He introduces himself as Jin Berkeley Grayton and fixes Daisy with an intense stare, calmly asking if the Viscount could please spare him a single moment of his time. Chapter 18. We pick up right where we left off, with the silver-haired prodigy Jin Berkeley Grattan confronting our disguised main character, Gray, in front of a stunned crowd. Jin drops a bombshell right off the bat, intensely asking if Gray could spare a moment. Realizing that things are moving fast, Gray instantly decides he needs to act like a sly snake to diffuse the tension. With a perfectly polite expression, he completely shuts down the request, stating that he is deeply sorry but he is already a married man. He even adds that he will pray for Jin to find another good match in the future. The crowd's jaws completely hit the floor, and nearby onlookers whisper in disbelief about what an incredibly gentlemanly rejection that was. However, Volquin is totally losing his mind, pointing out how insane it is that Gray can calmly sip his drink after dropping a massive misunderstanding like that. Volquin asks if Gray really thought Jin was proposing to him because she fell for his looks. Volquin laughs it off, explaining that while other ladies might be desperate to get married, Jin is completely different. She is famously known across the Empire for caring about absolutely nothing except swords. Gray quietly reflects that Volquin actually makes a valid point, because earlier during the duel, Jin definitely had the terrifying look of someone who just wanted to fight him. This makes the whole situation even more questionable. According to the secret information gathered from the Weatherwoods family butler, Jin is the hidden master of the dangerous assassination guild known as Clan. It is weird enough that a sword fiend is running an assassination guild, but for her to openly approach a target while drawing so much attention from the crowd means she must definitely have some kind of hidden ulterior motive. While Volquin asks what Gray is thinking about, Gray decides that since things have turned out like this, he has no choice. He smiles, telling them he just had an interesting thought. In reality, he resolves to become the ultimate bait himself to draw out the truth. Over the next few days, our boy stays incredibly busy. During the day, he hangs out in the open with Yegersi and Volquin, even attending a grand opera performance together. But at night, he locks himself inside the cabin to play cards with Lu. Despite appearances, he certainly wasn't slacking off, successfully gathering 3 major pieces of information. First, he learns that Jin cannot easily become the next duke of the Berkeley Grattan family. That is because the family has a legendary genius named Garrosh, a true monster that Jin has never managed to defeat even a single time. Gray wonders if Jin became the head of an assassination guild just to build up her own hidden power to defeat him. Second, he discovers that Yegersi studied abroad in the allied theocracy of the northern continent, which is the exact place where the Serenier family is located. Gray realizes that if he uses Yegersi's connections, he might be able to figure out why Lu chose to use the identity of Morian Serenier of all people, though he notes it is very important not to get caught by Lu while doing these background checks. Finally, Gray brings up the legendary artifact of Dian checked during a casual chat, and judging by the surprised expressions on his friends' faces, they definitely know something about it. Gray covers his tracks by lying that his wife simply loves stories about treasures, asking if they should go on an expedition. Volquin looks highly serious and advises Gray to drop that dangerous idea immediately. At the same time, Yegersi confirms that heavy rumors are circulating that some very powerful VIPs are actively looking for that exact artifact. This confirms Gray's deep suspicions the mysterious client who hired the assassins might actually be on this very airship right now. He figures that since he has been actively stirring things up, it is only a matter of time before either Jin or the client comes looking to pick a fight. Later on, the group gathers around a table for a lively game of cards. The surrounding crowd urges Gray to make a bold move like a man, though Yegersi warns that it will be tough to win with Gray's current hand. Volquin confidently bets on the Viscount winning, while another guest complains that he wanted to place that exact bet. Amidst the noise, Volquin asks if Gray is truly doing okay. Gray casually sighs, mentioning that things have been pretty crazy since the morning, and he honestly doesn't know why everyone is clinging to him so intensely. He jokingly asks if his handsome face is the problem after all, prompting a deadpan response from Volquin, who tells him he has absolutely no talent for jokes. Seeing Gray's confusion, Volquin signals Yegersi to prepare a special presentation to help Gray escape his delusions of grandeur. Yegersi proudly kicks off what he calls Yegersi's eye-level education, presenting a clear pyramid structure of society divided into royalty, nobles, upper class, and commoners. He reminds Gray that only nobles and the upper class were allowed to board the luxury airship, the Black Legal. He explains that among them, some are technically nobles but have less standing than the wealthy upper class, and conversely, upper-class individuals who are doing significantly better than actual nobles. Digging deeper into why this social divide exists, Yegersi reveals that it all comes down to political choices. Did a family fight bravely in the historic Magic War? Or did they choose to remain completely silent? Are they part of the pro-emperor faction that fiercely follows the emperor? Or are they part of the pro-Janelle faction, led by the powerful Archduke Raphael? A family's true prestige and power are entirely determined by which side they choose to belong to, creating insurmountable walls between the factions. Yegersi then springs a sudden quiz on Gray, asking where exactly Mr. Gray Weatherwoods belongs in this complex political puzzle. Gray drops a card and correctly guesses that his own standing is incredibly ambiguous. Yegersi points at him excitedly, confirming that because Gray fought in the war but received absolutely no political benefits and hasn't engaged in any external political activities since, it is completely impossible to tell if he is pro-emperor or pro-Janelle. On top of that, Gray is casually hanging out with upper-class youths instead of mingling with the high nobles. Because of this mysterious behavior, everyone on the ship is dying of curiosity about him. Gray silently realizes that he has unintentionally created the perfect situation to act as bait, but it will all be useless if the main targets don't bite. Suddenly, the noisy crowd parts as a heavy, commanding voice slices through the room. An incredibly imposing older man steps forward, stating that it is a pleasure to meet Viscount Weatherwoods. He notes that the Viscount is holding onto a very good hand, and asks if Gray is the type of person to play games very cautiously. Gray looks up in absolute shock. Ever since he first heard the name Berkeley Grayton from the butler, he had a strong feeling that things might turn out like this, knowing deep down that he might eventually reunite with this man. The towering warrior introduces himself to the quiet room, announcing that he is Duke Jaihark Berkeley Grayton. Gray stands up respectfully to greet the legendary figure as Gray Weatherwoods, acknowledging that it is a true honor to meet the famous Sword Saint. In a powerful moment of silent recognition, Gray remembers this man deeply. The Sword Saint was not only another master who taught him the way of the sword, but a true comrade with whom he had crossed the perilous lines of life and death together on the battlefield. If you're enjoying this so far, please comment Daisy below for the next part. Until next time, ciao.